Hey guys, it's Matt. Just to clarify a few things about yesterday's video on Pilgrims Progress, addressing some of the comments, explaining the notion of the Humpty Dumpty and the stuffed Lenin, and there's still some confusion there. But I read a comment yesterday under the video. It said something like, pretty early on, Matt, you're gonna take a beating for making this presentation. I guess the Pilgrim's Progress might be I don't know, an old beloved book to somebody that grew up in certain Protestant faiths. Maybe it was presented to them early on as a child, and I thought, no, I'm not gonna take a beating. Oh, yeah, a few of them did. I mean, one said I'm highly offended, and there needs to be a little bit of clarification on yesterday's video. Matt, you gonna apologize? You got to answer. You got to apologize? No, I'm not gonna apologize. I'm going to try to clarify my position so the person that was offended is no longer offended. Look, it can't be this Pilgrim's Progress, although it was all new to me. It can't be that important to a great number of people, no matter what Protestant religion. I asked Greg. Greg almost went to my buddy Greg, who I bounce everything off of. He almost went to seminary school. Almost went to seminary school. I mean, Greg is. He's Protestant. I'm not sure, I guess I should know if he's Methodist or what. I don't. But he'd never heard of it. If Greg never heard of, I know it's popular to a degree, but it's not, if Greg never heard of it, it can't be that popular. So guys, first off, the whole notion, this is Zara, the whole notion of the concept of the Humpty Dumpty and the stuffed Lenin. There's some confusion there. These are ideas, notions, stories, concepts, which I would say carried through time artificially. They should not exist in 2024. They should have been forgotten about hundreds of years ago, or more in some cases. Anything of antiquity, most things in my opinion of antiquity that exist today in such prominence are in some way a stuffed Lenin or a Humpty Dumpty. Even the allegory of Plato's cave, things like that. We can talk about that. But whenever we've talked about them in the past, we've talked about them being the message, usually talking about them being the message being very good, like the spiritual message which I believe is in Humpty Dumpty. You don't look to all the king's horses and all the king's men to put your broke spiritual self back together again. Look to yourself. I'm not going to say it, no, but don't look to the king's horses and men represent society, culture, experts, people that work in government or university. They can't help you. Of course not. Don't look to the king's horses and the king's men. But that doesn't mean every single time we've looked at a Humpty Dumpty, it's been a positive spiritual message. No, it's not positive or negative. Anything carried through time artificially from antiquity can be a stuffed Lenin or Humpty Dumpty. We'll just continue to call it a Humpty Dumpty from this point going forward. So they're not all good. They don't all carry a wonderful, positive spiritual message. It's carried forth artificially. It should not exist today, or at least the roots of it don't make any sense. When a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to observe it, does it make a sound? This is a quantum thought experiment that should not have existed when they say that whole idea came about in the early or mid-1800s. Quantum anything didn't exist. So that's like a reverse Humpty Dumpty. It just doesn't make any sense. So, again, let's not, on the Pilgrim's Progress yesterday, very simple. I came across this relatively recently, and I don't know, of course, I hadn't read it. I don't know much about it. But the one thing that gives the notion of the Humpty Dumpty or the stuffed Lenin away is how many times it's referenced over the centuries or decades in modern culture. There's plays on, now I don't know in the case of Pilgrim's Progress, but in general, the other Humpty Dumptys we've looked at, there'll be all these other books written about it, and it'll be cited in songs and in movies and plays, and it's just too many citations where I've said to myself that the system here is trying to carry forth whatever this is into the future when it should have been forgotten about 100 or 200 or more years ago, or 1,000 years ago. And the best example is Humpty Dumpty. I appreciate the great spiritual message, and I'm glad that that exists. But whenever somebody came up with it, I've done this 100 times. It's not any good. And nobody's going to see the spiritual message. Very few of us, maybe even you, disagree that there's a spiritual message in Humpty Dumpty. So almost nobody sees that message, if it even exists at all. I believe it does. But whenever it was created, it would have just been forgotten about the next day. Matt, Czar's not there anymore. Put the camera back, you jackass. Yeah, there we go. It would have been forgotten about. And I think that is the case also with Pilgrims Progress. Look, again, if you grew up on this, I'm sorry. In terms of what it is today, it's just not very good. It really isn't. I mean, the character, I think people defend it because in some way it was probably presented to them as an important part of their Protestant religion growing up. But if you just take it for what it is, I'm sure it was probably pretty amazing for 1679 or 1680, but it shouldn't exist even past like 1850. It's not that good. Come on, real. I saw some of the comments and I said, maybe I did jump the gun here, or maybe should I be passing judgment on this without having read 99% of it? I mean, is that right? So I went back this morning, I read a few more sections, and I can't, again, in terms of the spiritual message, I did get, the conclusion, which somebody pointed out, or a few people pointed out in the comments. It was, in conclusion, was section 404. Error, that's computer error not, page not found, or file not found, 404. Or that's really interesting that it just happened to close on 404. Maybe we'll talk about that a little later. But, maybe what's contained is a very bright, uplifting spiritual message. And maybe I completely misinterpreted it. And if I did, I apologize. But it is still a stuffed Lenin or Humpty Dumpty. Either way, it's just not good enough. It should not exist past 1900 or 1920. I mean, even the darn posters written in that old English where the S looks like an F, and I've read more of the story. It's just guys, okay. It was probably wonderful. What did they have to read back then? And it is pretty amazing as it keeps citing passages in the Bible referencing chapter and verse related to what's being said in Pilgrim's Progress. But it's just not that good. So I'm labeling it, Matt, you can label it a Humpty Dumpty, but don't say it's a negative Humpty Dumpty. It's a positive, some might say. Maybe I misinterpreted that. Either way, it's a Humpty Dumpty. Okay, in terms of, again, it influenced Mark Twain. It influenced how? Okay, whatever. Okay, maybe it's just there's too many citations and references in other forms of art, media, and culture for what it is. In some way, the Mona Lisa, for example, is a Humpty Dumpty. It's just not that good. Okay, there's something going on with it. So this is a better way to talk about the Humpty Dumpty, or for me to explain what my notion of the concept is. Mona Lisa, we could get this damn AI, if it would ever be, it's good for nothing. If it ever do something to benefit society, humanity, benefit. I'm still waiting for the benefits of this wonderful AI. I mean, it's coming either way. Might as well look for a benefit over the next 10 years, right? If it could cite in all the references to the Mona Lisa in a Simpsons cartoon, or mentioned in the Da Vinci Code, or talked about in a book, there would be millions and millions of citations and references and allusions, whatever it may be, cartoons, caricatures, millions upon millions over the last 200 years. Now, this is a gigantic example of a Humpty Dumpty because it's just not that good. Okay, why is it so popular? When this happens, you say this is artificial. This is carried through time. Its fame is artificial, and so I ask why. What is the Not Nilk up to? What is potentially reality up to? We talked about the stuffed, let's just call it a Humpty Dumpty. Um, it's not the concept of the Humpty Dumpty, guys. I also want to clarify this. It doesn't mean that it's just the creepy table and the creeps, for some reason, have to, by their contractual basis, have to keep something prominent. In a way, reality itself does this somehow. It can all be coordinated by creeps and smoking rooms. There's no way they could do it. So I'd err on the side of, the reality in some way, or not milk reality, may use the creeps and their infrastructure and minions to carry certain notions or ideas forth that I call a Humpty Dumpty. But it's reality itself does it. And reality itself, I need to clarify, guys, it's not all not milk. Not milk to me is like an evil influence, a spiritual corrupter that runs through reality. Yes, of course, extremely similar to Satan, but reality as a whole is not a negative. If there's a not milk that we focus on so much, maybe there is a positive side. Some people, like C3PO's Golden Calf channel, make videos and there's a positive message in the Mandela Effect, or God's trying to wake us up in a way. And so I'm open to that as well. When I say not milk, that doesn't mean the whole reality. And there's the game board, the natural, what was constructed here. And then the corrupter that tries to hijack, that will never be able to truly hijack, that tries to corrupt one's pilgrim's progress and spiritual progress, in terms of what we need to do here for ourselves. So just to summarize, guys, a stuffed or a Humpty Dumpty is neither good nor bad. It just means it's artificially carried forward to, say, the year 2024 or wherever we happen to be in the future. Should have been forgotten about a long time ago, hundreds of years ago. Or it's a reverse, meaning if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to observe it, doesn't make a sense. Any sort of quantum thought experiment, that if you could trace it back, should not have ever come out of 1820. Impossible. If somebody talked about that at a bar, hey guys, if a tree over in the next county falls and nobody lives in that county, does it make a sound? How much did you have to drink? Cut him off. Get him out of here. It wouldn't have gone anywhere. It exists, and its reverse lineage exists artificially. There's no way anybody came up with that, and people said, "Oh, that's great. I'm going to start talking about that to everybody." I mean, it's impossible. They would have blown it. It would have been nonsense. It's only not nonsense to us because of all these quantum questions that have been posed. Spooky action at a distance and quantum entanglement, all the stuff that Bohr's introduced 100 years ago, of which the theories they're using. Whatever they understand about quantum anything, they use it to build their iPhones and to do certain things that I don't understand. But in terms of how it works, they haven't, well, in terms of what they give the public or what they share with the university research labs, their knowledge isn't much more than what, the Bohr's-Einstein debates were, or the Schrodinger stuff. It hasn't gone anywhere. Now, I think the creepy table understands a whole lot, but it hasn't gone anywhere in terms of, academic science as it's presented, say, through a university. So anyway, that's, here comes a Humpty Dumpty. One of the major giveaway is just it's not very good, and it's still cited in this movie, in this book, and this poem talks about it, and this talk show host, or Jay Leno mentioned it, or, it's just not that good. Even things like the amount of times you'll hear somebody cite like the portrait of Dorian Gray, or it's a bad example, or citing Matt. Even you cite Dickens and Jacob Marley Chains, and there's some things that are good enough to continue to survive century after century. But Pilgrims Progress, sorry, it's not that good. Unless it's near and dear to you, like my mom read me Babar, the damn elephant, and she read me some things, and it's near and dear to me. Or I remember 3 or 4 or 5 years old, Where the Wild Things Are. It's near and dear to me. But you could go back at Jack in that damn outfit. It sucks. Where the Wild Things Are. It sucks. It's near and dear to me. That's what people got upset about Pilgrim's Progress. some people said something like, Matt, you're bashing God again. What? Yeah, that's, you finally figured out what this channel's for. Bash the Christian God. That's what it's, what? This Pilgrim's Progress kind of sucks. Okay, and the fact all the remember all the references, all the just even it's mentioned in movies in the 90s and mentioned, wow, why? It's a stuffed Humpty Dumpty or a wax figure under glass. It shouldn't exist. Matt, when do you think it should have gone away? Probably by 1720. It should have gone away relatively as soon as other sorts of books started and libraries popped up. I mean, the Pilgrims, whatever. It's just not that good, guys. So, and here's the second part of yesterday's video to defend myself. Of course, I'm not going to read the 108,000 words. I don't have time. I make 4, 5, 6 videos sometimes a week. I have time to read 108,000 words, but I read the most important parts, the beginning, the apology from the author, the conclusion. Read it. I read the section about they come across the demon Beelzebul who shoots his arrows, and certain sections that got my attention. Well, how's that demon presented? I read it. It's not that good, but the end. I do think that, get it out, Matt. Ugh. I do think that I'm pretty good in terms of my instincts at determining what this thing we study called not milk, what it's up to. My sixth sense or my inner knowing if something is there to help us or there to hurt us is pretty good. And again, I didn't read the whole Pilgrim's Progress, but the ending did disturb me. I got a very negative vibe from the end. And if anybody's saying how offensive it was that I would attack the Pilgrim's Progress without studying it and reading all of it, and I didn't really attack it. I really didn't. I called it a stuffed and a Humpty Dumpty and all that, but I did get a bad vibe, guys, in the end. And what was the section? Something the right off the bat in the conclusion, 404, file not found, says something like, if you misinterpret this, it says flat out, if you misinterpret what I'm saying, this Bunyan character, you abuse yourself, and evil will ensue. Does that sound? I mean, maybe he was trying to help by writing his 108,000 words or whatever, but does that sound something that a nice guy would put in the end, in the conclusion? It's very arrogant to it. You better listen up, boy. If you misinterpret what I have to say, did I do that at the end of the half page when I present? This is how my understanding of reality is, the half page, and you misinterpret what I'm saying this half page. You abuse yourself, you son of a beach, and evil will ensue. So go back and reread my half page till you understand it. I mean, it was like, maybe it was so arrogant that it got like, it was like, I interpreted as like sinister or evil. But is that right? Is that what you put at the end? A supposedly completely wholesome interpretation of translating passages from the Bible into a story, a fiction story. You close with that? I don't think so. Something wrong with that, Bunyan. And what was the other parts to it? At the end, and if you cast off what I've done in vain, again, more arrogance, then you will make me dream again, or I must dream again. And I thought, that's weird too. Okay, sorry, more the big supporters of the Pilgrim's Progress gonna attack me again. Relate, don't just attack me. Relate, explain where I'm going wrong. Explain why the conclusion is wholesome, and it's not. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not. It's something wrong with it. So, the very end, you just cast off what I had to write here. You didn't absorb you misinterpreted my 108,000 words and my nonsense. Then you will make me dream again. What is that? Why would it? It opens with the dream, and closes with the dream. Well, is that up and down in the Bible? How Jesus and the apostles and the writings of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John just continuously write about how this life is a maya, an illusion, a dream? No, I don't. Well, I'm no Bible scholar. I do refer to Greg on this. Again, he almost went to seminary, school. But no, it doesn't. The Bible doesn't. Jesus doesn't emphasize that this is the Last Supper. But I want you all to remember. If you remember one thing, this is all a dream. No, that I don't think the Bible does that. I'm no expert at it, but it's very real, and the consequences are very real in the Bible. So what's with those that are big defenders of the Pilgrims Progress? What's with this? The bookends are dream and dream. Okay, that's rather significant. It was the second to last word of the conclusion. If he would have found a way to close with that word, he would have. It's absolutely bookended with this concept of dream. It's a little weird. Why? Is that really in line with, is that the first thing Martin Luther popped up teaching after the Reformation? This is a dream. That's why we're separating from these Catholics over here. They don't acknowledge the dream. I'm Martin Luther. You come with me. You acknowledge this life's just a vague dream. It's just a Maya, and those sons of beaches over there. They don't acknowledge. That's okay. You should. Lutheran, Methodist, Protestants. Does that sit right with you? Man, it's okay if you said it was a dream. Is it? Okay. I thought that was weird. I thought what Mr. Bunyan presented was weird, and it kind of got my spidey sense. And I've been wrong, but my spidey sense is usually right. I thought, this is weird. What's with this notion of the dream? And then you cast off what I have to say. Well, why is he talking about misinterpretation at all? It's so the concept is supposedly the most important thing in human existence to this type of writer. The journey from the city of destruction to, I think, he represents Mount Zion as heaven. I don't know anything about that, guys. Why this word Zion keeps popping up. They even used it in the Matrix, Zion. I always thought I'd like to look into it, but there's probably so many different ways that whatever you would research online would mislead you. Maybe you guys can comment on it. What's with this Zion? I know that I have studied in the past the notion of, in terms of the country, of Israel, and the notion of Zionist, and what that tries to propagate versus just somebody that wants to live in Tel Aviv and just be left alone. I mean, there's a big difference there, and I've looked into that from time. But why does it pop up so much? Anyway, so why did it, Mount Zion, I guess, is on that map where the Pilgrim's Progress ultimately leads to, where God is. It was, I don't know, when that pops up, the word, maybe incorrectly, I've put a whole negative connotation onto that because of what it represents through, those that try to control this world, etc. So I don't like that word much, but I don't, maybe that's ignorant because I don't know a lot about it. But so he's trying to present the most important journey for times a trillion for anybody, of course, is the journey from the city of destruction, the debauchery of society, the Sodom and Gomorrah, where in the character in Pilgrim's Progress was where Christian lived, city of destruction. Of course, I agree with that allegory of that. This is the world is a low place, is a place on decline. Bunyan should see the world of today. If he thought there were problems, well, they got their own problems back then with sick kings and queens that like to do weird things with horses and stuff. I guess it's all the same. It's just a different form of debauchery, and not milk, adultery and a bastardization of a society. It's just a different form in a different era. So he says, he's talking about misinterpretation. And well, if it's so important, sorry to stray so much, if this journey, the progress to the Mount Zion where God is so important, why did you write it in such a way where it needs to be interpreted? And he's warning the reader at the end, if you misinterpret this, evil will ensue. Well, then why don't you just tell us what you meant? If it's that important and evil could ensue, or your soul could be damned and you're not going to get to where you need to go, I'm not writing nothing like Pilgrim's Progress, but we talked about a lot of different things over many, many chapters of the book. But then I summed it up at the end in a half page. So we talked at length about the not milk tactics and who exactly our adversary could be. It could be a different spiritual incarnation. that's not as advanced as you are. And we talked about all this for hours and hours and hours. But I put it into that, well, it was more like 1 page or page and a half, but I call it the half page. I tried to sum it up. I didn't at the end of what I presented as my book say, well, it's up to you guys to interpret it. And if you don't interpret all that bullshit, evil will ensue. Who would do that? Bunyan. Paul Bunyan. John Bunyan. John Runyon was a left tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he went on to be like some sort of congressman or something. What a low creature. No, I tried to summarize everything in the half page and just try to do the best I can to explain reality the way I see it. Can't say it's right. It's just the way I see it. Many of you resonate with a lot of my viewpoints. What did Bunyan do? Oh, you don't misinterpret what I wrote, he warns. That's sinister, man. That's not right. If it's so important, just tell me what I need to know. I appreciate the simplicity of John 3:16. This is the way. Here, Jesus. You don't go. You're fucked. I appreciate simplicity. I think the Bible is way too all over the place, complicated. One of my biggest gripes. No, Matt, don't apologize in the same way. But the Christians that are here like these sorts of conversations and debates. The Christians that can't take it left me a long time ago. They're going to take their ball and go home. They take their ball. They should welcome, if you're secure in your faith and your relationship with Jesus Christ, or however you present it or talk about it, we welcome all challenges. Of course, it should hold up to anything. And I'm sure for you, if it's that good, it will. But a major problem with the Bible is 780,000 words. For what? For what? That many words can only bring confusion. There's no possible way that many words can bring a clear path. Can't. So one would say, maybe King James wasn't so nice, and they added a bunch of weird stuff, and there's things, even I would think the most devout of Christians should, when reading the Bible, understand there could be a lot in there it was in the hands of not milk. And I know this, the Christians that would get all upset and take their ball and go home now and be pissed at me for saying this, the ones that would say God would never allow his word to be muddled or muddied, whichever one is a real word, by what you call not milk, Matt. This is God's word, and he won't allow that. They left me a long time ago. Hopefully, if it's 780,000 words, there's a lot of mess in there that shouldn't be there. That's just, come on, guys. It's contradictory in a lot of areas. Come on, anybody getting upset at me over this? Simplicity. It should be 50 pages. This is one of my big issues with it. Jesus, here's the teaching of Jesus per the interpretations of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Jesus was very clear. I'm the real God, and this is the real Father, and this is what you need to do for yourself in this life. It could be 20 pages. All the proverbs and I don't know. And all I do believe, as per many Mandela affected people say, I'm a very Mandela affected person, and this really pisses off many Christians as well. But the ones that really got upset would have taken their ball and gone home a long time ago. No doubt it's been changed per the Mandela effect. And if it's been changed, or you think there's been a change at all, well, the parts that really can be trusted are the part, as Christians have told me, that that's in your heart, that you grew up on, that have not been corrupted. If you can confirm that for yourself, of course, then that these parts have not been corrupted. But just the amount of residuals alone on the wolf will dwell with the lamb, it's the amount of residuals and things that don't make sense of the lion and the lamb in presenting themselves in movie references and books and watercolors and paintings and frescoes, and I guess those three are the same thing. But it's just impossible that there'd be that many presentations of a lion with a lamb when it's wolf. And there's so many examples. I don't want to turn this into a Mandela Effect conversation. One other quick thing, guys. I've had many Christians that know the Bible inside and out, including Greg, come to me saying it's been Mandela affected, not 99%, 100%. With my favorite video of all time, I exchanged a comment back and forth with this older gentleman, 2016, 2017, when the Mandela Effect was hitting hard. And he showed in his video, showed us that to the side of the Bible that he had some room for notes, and he would make notes and different interpretations of how he saw whatever this passage is. And he wrote about the wine skins and putting wine in old wineskins and whatever, the sour the wine, whatever it may be. And he's writing wineskins in his notes, where right off next to it says bottles. And he's like, there's no possible way, 100%, there's no possible way I would write wineskins. And that's also what everyone remembers that is Mandela affected for that particular chapter and verse, wineskins versus bottles. He's like, there's no way I would have written wineskins when it's not there. And he's writing pencil. He showed everybody in the video. So it's just to me, it's 100%. But if you're, many people, if they're not Mandela affected, or even those that very much are Mandela affected, remember, reality always wants to draw you. There are very large forces that want to draw you back to what exists now and what has always existed. So if the Bible says bottles instead of wineskins, you know the way this works. Matt, it is turning into a Mandela Effect video. Just another minute or two. It has then always said bottles, and retrocausal or retroactively, bottles was always there. There was no date of change. So if it's a reality that exists, that has always existed, the forces on all of us to pull us into that reality are so strong. Even those that have said, initially, yeah, I think that's a Mandela Effect. If a week later they'll say, no, that's it's not. There's forces to draw us into the main channel or river of reality are so strong, and we're not all. I'm not immune to it. I mean, many. I was sure about this or that, and all that. I'll start to question it. So then, when you have your 5, 6, or 7 anchor effects, you have to really hold on to them, because the reality will always want to draw you, like a download. The way Tony changed all his answers, Matt. I don't. Now that I think about it, Matt, I'm sure it was if you build it, he will come. I'm changing that. He changed all his answers because reality just drew him back. It was like a download, drew him back to the main river. What exists today, and that these forces draw all of us all the time, where we just question ourselves, etc., etc. So back to Pilgrim's first part of this, the most important part, guys. I wanted to clarify about the Humpty Dumpty. They're not all great spiritual messages, not at all. They might be whatever it is carried forth artificially by the bad part of reality, not by the good part of reality, because it has to be carried forth because that's how this reality works. Plato's allegory of the cave must always be carried forth to remind people that that's generally what this reality is. It's a false presentation of some sort of illusion, or how are the creeps involved in carrying this forward? And this one might be good, this one might be bad. It's all up to you. Doesn't mean they're all good. My interpretation on Pilgrims Progress, and maybe I explained in this video what bothered me about the Bunyan presentation, what I thought was arrogant and a little sinister, and evil will ensue. I explained all that. But even with that being said, there's a whole 100,000 words in between I didn't read, so I could be completely wrong, and it's okay. Show me the error of my ways, I'll change my opinion. I can't. I'm sorry, unless you guys want one video every 2 weeks. I have to go on my instincts with this channel. Where I want to spend 10 hours of research and read 50, 70, 100 pages of the Pilgrim's Progress. I only have time to read 3 or 4 pages. And then if I made one video every 2 or 3 weeks and I could put all this research in, that would be different. But that's, so I have to go, a lot of cases I have to go on instinct. And I'll continue to do that because my instincts usually have been right. I've been wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about Pilgrim's Progress. But no need to get upset at me and say, this is offensive. And come on. I'm willing to change my viewpoints. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Just be adult about it and say, Matt, listen, your instincts are usually good, but you're going wrong about this. This is really a good piece of work. And if you call it a Humpty Dumpty, it's the good forces in this world carrying it through time. The creeps want this to go away. And, one could make an argument on both sides about that. Even Greg said, when I talked about it with Greg yesterday, Greg, I told you he knows so much about the Bible, he almost went to seminary school. I guess I'm sorry if I mentioned that too many times in this video, but I'm just showing you how much, what an authority he is on this. He said, I never heard of it. But then we talked about it, and, I don't know if he went on his phone and looked, oh yeah, he might have heard of it, but he was very unfamiliar with it. He said, something very interesting. He said, Matt, it does take a pot shot at Catholics, calling Christian, the character in the story, comes across two giants living in the land of the valley of the dead, or something like the pits of hell or something. And one giant is called Pope, and one is called Pagan. So obviously, it's two ends of it's the bookends of what this very Protestant writer Bunyan was taking pot shots at both ends of the spectrum, taking a pot shot at Catholicism. One of these gross giants in the book is Pope, one is Pagan, both seemingly equally despisable to the type of Protestant writer or person that wrote this. So Greg said, if this really takes a pot shot at the Catholics, this Pilgrims Progress bot, then why haven't the Catholics worked very hard over the ages to just get rid of it? They have the infrastructure and the hundreds of billions or more, and the reach, and the ground forces, you could say, to get rid of it, probably, where the Protestants over time have been much more segmented, of course. And Greg's like, why haven't he even used the word stamped it out? Why haven't the Catholics stamped this out? So somebody on the other side, see, I'm open to all interpretations, guys. Somebody could say, Matt, this is a good piece of work with an incredibly good spiritual message. The good forces in this world make it or assure us that it will be carried through time. And the dark forces, whether that be the Pope or anything else, can't stamp it out, Matt. This is the good forces carrying it through time, even though that still meets the definition of a Humpty Dumpty. And maybe so. But when something is that important, the soul's journey to heaven, I'm sorry, I don't think I'll ever move off this. 108,000 words brings confusion. It can bring nothing but confusion. And maybe I had tens of thousands of words as we discuss the book in this chapters, but a lot of times I'll do a sidebar, tell a story, or you can't, what's going to be the book or my book will be much shorter than what was presented in all those YouTube videos. But again, at the end, I said basically everything we've understood up to this point. My understanding might be here, yours might be a little bit above mine or below mine over here, or this person's might know more about this. I basically said, throw it all out. Throw it all out. This half page, or what I call the half page, is all we need to know. That we're here in a place we chose to come to. There's an adversary here trying to stop us in terms of what we're supposed to do for ourselves in the limited time we have to do it. I said, throw it all out. You don't need those details. How does, the whole segment and chapter, how reality gives itself away. This list after list. I said something I shouldn't have said. If I want this to load, I'm so sick of this crap. We have to go to free voice permanently or something. Just such bullshit. Was talking about, when we were talking about in the book, how reality gives itself away. This long list of no real world could do this. Reality gives itself away. Talking about one area amongst many, how when you look into something, it gives too many details. With my favorite one being Julius Caesar stabbed 26 times. That would have never, was it 26 times? Whatever it was, would never been recorded. The coroner would have said he was stabbed, Julius Caesar. They would have even known because one would have been so close to each other. So when all these ridiculous details always come through these old stories, and what I was talking about, why I have to re-record the Roth. You can't say the name. You get a banner out. You can't. What can you say? It's like 1984. We live in 1984. Where's Waldo? Where's Winston? 1980. I wish you'd call you. Wouldn't it be called Winston Zara? It's like what I was going to say about reality giving itself away in too many details. I was talking a few weeks back about the Roth and how that. Remember, we were looking at that mansion and all these details about the old mansion. On the first week it was open, there was a party with 25 guests and shrimp was served. And there's no way they would have known all that, the number of guests, and even if somebody said, well, that person maybe maintained a diary, well, okay, but in every case, there's always too many details in reality giveaway stuff's not no bull crap in history when you research it. So the point, guys, is, and way too many details, straying, sorry, that we talked about how reality gives itself away in detail, but at the end, again, that half page, I'm like, throw it all out. We know enough about how our adversary works here. We know enough. We don't need to know any more details, even if you don't remember more than 1% of what was discussed in the chapters. So I presented my half page and tried to summarize, tried to make it simple. Didn't, like, again, one last time, like Bunyan say, you better interpret. I mean, it just was wrong. Anyway, I guess I'm repeating myself at this point, guys. So, don't get bent out of shape. Some of the commenters, this is offensive. Eh? I'm going to be wrong from time to time. Cat's showing its ass again. I'm going to be wrong from time to time. I'm not intransigent in my position. I'll move off. I'll say, I was wrong. I'm not moving off my position in any way on Pilgrims Progress unless somebody comes back and shows me how this is just a wonderful spiritual message. There is no sinister element whatsoever to it, Matt. But see what I would say, no matter how much I've gotten that wrong, to me, I'm sorry. This was what I was going to say, and I'm sorry for straying so much. 108,000 words is never serving anybody. 108,000 words in terms of trying to deliver a message on how to get to heaven does not serve unless there is a summary, unless there is a simple conclusion at the end. You might not remember all those details of and all those characters that Christian came across during his journey to find heaven. But, the summary would be, here's what I want here. Bunyan would say, here's what I want you to remember. Accept Jesus Christ, be a good person, whatever it may be, a summary. Then that does away with having to remember or misinterpret. But what does he do? He basically threatens at the end. You misinterpret, you'll abuse yourself. That's sinister. I'm sorry. All that love the Pilgrim's Progress. And not only will you abuse your broke spiritual ass if you misinterpret my nonsense, he says evil will ensue. You know what, Bunyan, callous man, then you know what? You put a summary at the end so there is no potential for misinterpretation. If you don't do that, I didn't read the whole thing. I probably never will, but if you didn't do that, and the arrogance in your conclusion, your 404 file page not found, I'm sticking to what I said yesterday. Thou art a villain. If he's not, it's such a great work, even at 108,000 pages of nonsense, 108,000 words, not pages, that would be something, then tell me. I'm not intransigent. I'm willing to back off my position. No reason to take your ball and go home and to say, oh, that's defensive. And come on, man. If anything, we need to have a few laughs. Again, 5 videos a week. I'm going to dive into some things sometimes where, maybe I should spend a week of research. I can't. I don't have time for that. So anyway. All right, guys. I will look to your comments. And maybe the subscriber count will go negative this month because of that. I doubt it, but it'll do probably what it's been doing. About 40 people a month. I should have been one of those movie reviewers that bash Disney. They go 10,000 up, or 10 to 20,000 a month. Nerdrotic, over 1 million subscribers. All you got to do is show up and bash Disney. 1 million subscribers. Look like if I'm out to mislead people, and I'm actually Joe Rogan and deepfake and Billy Corrigan on my free time and deepfake, I picked the wrong thing to talk about. I should have just bashed Disney. 1 million subscribers. I probably could have been right there with the critical drinker and all those idiots that don't see it's all being made bad on purpose. That's not my calling is quite different. to see the dark of reality that's here, and to try to interpret it to the best I can in a way that makes sense. I'm going to be wrong from time to time, but I'm going to keep trying to do that. Thanks, guys.